All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the the Plow Quarterly Rhina Espaillat Award Ceremony for our annual poetry award. I have some little children running around, so if you hear them, that's what's going on because poetry is a vocation that's part of life, not separate from life. Um, so I want to just talk a little bit about Plow and about this award, and then we'll go on to the recognition of the winners of the award. My name is Jane Charles. I'm a poet and a playwright, and I'm honored to be the poetry editor for Plow. I had the privilege of judging this contest this year and participating in that process, although it is a team-wide selection at the very end of the process. So Plow Quarterly is the publication of the Bruderhof, and the Bruderhof is a Christian community dedicated to bringing life to a struggling world and to pointing out that there are other possible ways to live in true community and true love of each other. And Plow Quarterly, each issue we focus on a different contemporary issue, and we try to look at it from many different angles and find ways that we can truly love each other in unexpected ways. The Rhina Espaillat Poetry Prize is only a few years old, but in those years, we've seen an incredible growth. This year, we had over 1,000 poems submitted for the contest, and all of that is in honor of this beautiful woman that you see seated in front of the green plants. Rhina is a wonderful poet, a Dominican American working. Her poetry is full of details and textures and the presence of the possibility of faith, the divine, miracles, but nothing cliche, nothing sentimental. It's just very open to the possibility of grace in a difficult world. And Rena never looks away from the reality of darkness in her work. And I think as we look at the three winning poems from our contest, you'll see these poems really did hit that amazing balance of the presence of grace in the real world that doesn't ignore darkness and doesn't try to gloss over darkness and suffering. So I'm just really thrilled and delighted to bring you these poems. I think what we're going to do to begin is we're going to have the way this is going to flow is we're going to have the winners of the contest read their poems aloud for us, which is always such a treat to get to hear a poet read in his or her own voice. And then Rena will comment on the poem and tell us what struck her. And then if you're interested, Rena, you and I can chat about it more, or you can just hold court, whatever you'd like to do.
More
We'll
chit
go from
chat.
there. Okay, that sounds lovely. So for the one of the runners up for this is Daniel Galef. Is that how you say your last name, Daniel? I should know this.
You know how there are some names that have more than one correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Mine actually has no correct pronunciation. There are about three or four possibilities, and they're all incorrect, which is interesting.
Great. Okay. How do you like it said?
Galef is fine. Galef is
Galef.
also good.
Okay, great. Daniel Gallup comes to us from Cincinnati, and his winning poem is John Harrison Speaks to H4. It's an intriguing poem. So, Daniel, can you read that for us?
Absolutely. And I'll just preface this by saying this is part of a series I've been writing for a number of years now called The Imaginary Sonnets. It's published with a little footnote that is just sort of optional. They're all persona poems illustrating figures from history and art history and literary history. And John Harrison was an English clockmaker who invented the marine chronometer that allowed sailors to determine position at sea. And there was a prize established for this feat, the Longitude Prize. But the astronomer royal at the time was Neville Maskelyne, who believed that the problem should be solved a different way, astronomically rather than with clockwork. And he continually denied John Harrison his prize, and he came back for decades and decades until finally the H4 was the final chronometer he built, and he won the prize and then died shortly thereafter. So here is John Harrison to H4. You watch. It's more than time you tell. You've taught me how to spring ahead, though I fall back, to wind against the wind by changing tack, that bearings must be smooth, that seas are not, that time and place are linked, that time and tide might wait on man like stewards if controlled, that brass is more reliable than gold, that it is better far to seize than bide, that fears of failure hasten and assure it. They mask a line of fix and leave one drifting, while lifetimes slip away like sand grains sifting. That enemies of progress think they're for it, but can't forestall forever. Tooth by notch, the gears and years advance, and you watch.
That is an amazing poem, and what you do with language is absolutely perfect because you begin and you end with the words you watch. And not only is that a word with two meanings, because of course I'm wearing one, and he was a clockmaker, and he's talking about time throughout this poem and the measuring of time. But he doesn't come out and tell the reader, here's what I'm going to tell you. He just does it instead of announcing it. And I love that. I like the fact that there are so many phrases here that have to do with time and with the sea and with travel. For example, more than time you tell, you've taught me how to spring ahead. And then, though I fall back, just the way a clock may do that, or a ship, or a wave. All those things become images in your poem, and you don't just tell the reader, here's what I'm talking about, which would be so boring. The wind and the wind, the clock has to be wound, but the wind just does what it does. The bearings are the parts of a machine, and you let that be just without underlining it with anything. Seas are not. Time and place are linked, time and tide. These pairs of comparisons are wonderful. That man waits on stewards if controlled. Now here you're beginning to get into the human world, and it's very painful to get into there because I felt like the composer, like the inventor. I felt like the inventor because I understand that I looked all of this up. I read and read and read because this poem really got to me.
Mm.
And it was so cruel. It was so cruel that he knew he was right. He said, within 1 second in 100 years, this clock will work. It will do what I say it will do. And the people around him who wanted to be there first, they didn't want him to be there at all. And this is a human thing that makes me very sad every time I come across it. But it's real. So in many ways, this is a poem more about man than the machines he makes. It's about what he hopes for, what he is allowed to succeed at, because other people can stop that. They can stop, what does it say? That fears of failure hasten and assure it. That's a terrible line. It's terrible because it's so true. Somebody can stop you from doing something that you know you're doing right. And that I find painful. But it's good to tell the truth. And that's one of the things that I love about poetry, that Emily Dickinson was right. You can tell the truth, and you can tell it slant. And then, of course, you go back to the water. The fears of failure, assure it, they mask a line of fix and leave one drifting, while lifetimes slip away like sand grains sifting. We're on the beach now. Enemies of progress think they're for it, but can't forestall forever. And I love tooth by notch because that reminds me of the kind of thing that you can do damage with, both damage and clockwork. And he feels, I guess, that he had damage done to him. The gears and years advance, and I don't know if he's talking at this point to his machine or to his rival. I think he's talking to both. I don't know. I'm hoping that he's going to tell me what I'm saying wrong here. But I feel that he's talking to both of those things. The years advance and you watch. Now that's a poem that takes a lot of turns, a lot of corners, and yet it makes its point.
Yeah, that was a beautiful reading of it and going through it line by line. I think, yeah, what's so magnificent about this poem to me is how, exactly like you were saying, he starts with this very specific historical moment that you might think, oh, well, you can't really write a successful poem about that because no one's going to know about it and it's going to just push people out of the poem. But what he does with it is creates this tight world within the poem where all you need to know is the tiny bit of information in the note, and then the poem teaches you how to work in the world that it makes. So you come across the line, they mask a line of fix and leave one drifting. I didn't know what a line of fix was when I read the poem, but because the world of the poem is so internally consistent, I knew when I came to it, I thought, well, it must be some sort of navigational thing. And I could picture in my mind, and I looked it up, and it's actually fairly close to what I was picturing.
Yes.
But there's also that sense of there's a universal truth here. Leave one drifting. Is it just the line that is left drifting, or is a person left drifting? And so somehow, I don't really know how exactly you did this, Daniel, but you created a poem that just it inhabits its extremely particular and strange moment so completely that we can come into that world with you. It's really admirable. I don't know how you did that.
That
Thank
took
you
a
so,
lot.
so much. That's a really lovely appreciation, and it was exactly everything that I wanted to hear.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I'm a big believer in puns and wordplay being used for humorous but also non-humorous ends. I don't know how I wedged so many puns into this poem and managed to leave it seeming still somewhat solemn. Um, what pleased me more than anything is you saying that it sent you to go read up about the background and do research, because
Everything
that's
I
what
could
every one of
find.
the poems in this series is about to me. The poem is an entryway. I hope every single reader gets just bogged down in a 6-hour Wikipedia rabbit hole, because that's what happens before I write them.
Well, I love that. I love learning from something that I'm reading. And if it's a poem and beautiful at the same time, well, how can you lose?
Daniel, so here's a funny little note. In Daniel's original version, he didn't have the name of this vindictive enemy astronomer in the note, the masculine name. So he ended up adding that. And when you resubmitted it, and we all saw that, oh my goodness, you hid the name of the astronomer in the poem. Where,
Where?
oh, so the man's name is Neville Maskelyne, and then here in this line it says they mask a line of fix.
I missed that.
Isn't that
I
wild?
missed that.
So
That is
it's
fantastic.
just this great Renaissance move.
You see
But
now, if you're playing with a reader and you're playing with him like ping pong, that takes imagination and guts.
yes, yeah. And I wasn't, I'm not,
Masculine
isn't
fix.
that great? Yeah. It's so great. I wasn't in the office, but I got multiple emails from people in the Plow office
Yeah.
when you resubmitted that. And everyone was so excited about that little treasure. I don't know. I'm really excited to see other things that you write and publish because this was just such a delightful experience.
Delightful,
Thank you so, so
but
much.
with a mean streak.
Of course.
There is a mean streak there because you're the man who was cheated of his success,
Right.
and you have a right to be. You have a right to be. And I was so busy being angry with the rivals that I missed his name.
Just hiding in there.
He was a strange character in the story. He really wanted to solve the longitude problem with astronomical observations. If you pay attention really precisely to like the phases of the moons of Jupiter, you can also tell what time of day it is pretty precisely, which will let you know where you are. So time and place are linked. But it's you just can't do it on like a heaving ship's deck. And so people invented all these ridiculous contraptions. One's like a helmet with telescopes attached to it that you would wear while standing on a gyroscopic platform. It was not going to be solved that way, but he refused to let it go.
Yeah. Well, he knew he was right. And it's a kind of good lesson for the rest of us who read. Don't give up. Don't give up if you have an inkling, even just an inkling that you're hiding, that you've got something that other people are trying to hide from the world.
Hmm.
Be perseverant, be stubborn, be bloody-minded, never learn. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful poem. And the way the last line becomes a clock, the gears and years advance, and you watch the way that it clicks out. It's really an accomplishment. So
It really is. It really is.
thank you very much. And Daniel, we are all just looking forward to your debut collection. I hope it sends us all off on a 3-year Wikipedia journey to find all your treasures.
I can tell it made a big splash because the debut collection came out in 2023.
Oh, well, there you go. Is this going to be in a new collection? You said you're working on a
Absolutely. I could
okay.
not stop writing the imaginary sonnets with one book of them, so I'm slowly accumulating a second collection of them.
Oh, those imaginary sonnets were all they weren't those the narrative poems that were all sonnets? Is that?
Yeah, like this. Or
Yeah. I think I have that in my Amazon wish list actually now that you say that, but I haven't gotten it. So now I will.
the title and basically the entire premise of the collection is just shamelessly ripped off from this Victorian poet, Eugene Lee Hamilton, that I discovered when I was an undergrad. I could never had the patience. Like you were talking before the Zoom meeting began about how does anyone ever write a novel? First of all, I have no idea, but this is the only way I could write a book length project was if every
Hmm.
single one was different and it would be about a different person, a different period of history, different style.
I'm going
I
to read
love it.
that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your submission and congratulations. Moving to our next runner-up, we actually have someone who we just learned does in fact know how to write a novel. And besides that, she knows how to write a beautiful line of poetry. We have Midge Goldberg,
She
who
doesn't know how to sew.
exactly, she does not know how to sew.
That's
But I
right.
did, but not so.
Not yet. Midge comes to us. Yeah, Midge, are you officially part of the Powrow River Poets? You are?
Yes,
Very
she
good.
is. We wouldn't lose.
No,
We, if she ever threatened to leave, we would have to tie her to the chair.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Midge brought us the poem Button Box, which, as you will see, is a real treasure chest. Midge, can you read it? Read that to us.
absolutely. Button box. You never see this shade of coral now. And these big pearlized circles, very vintage. My mother kept them in this plastic shoebox. She taught me how to sew when I was 10, or tried. I liked the step stool at her table, but not the steps, measure, mark, pin, baste, sew. She couldn't see paying for store-bought clothes, higher prices, shoddy work. Look at those crooked seams. So she made all my clothes. My favorites were striped pants, a gingham dress, a green corduroy blazer, all with buttons, anchors, berries, leather, from the box. At 14, with the money I had saved, I got my first new pair of store-bought jeans. She never sewed me anything again, though to be honest, I was fine with that. She did give me the box. Well, not exactly. She always had the box, and then she died, and then I found the box and took it home. It sits on a high shelf. I take it down occasionally and rummage through the buttons, hold one for a minute, then put it back, not knowing what to wish for anymore, not knowing how to sew or how to mend.
That's another tricky poem because it says what it doesn't say. Or maybe I should say, it doesn't say what it says. It's somewhere between that line, because those first three lines, you think it's conversation. It's not going to come to anything. It's not important. But very vintage gives it away. If you're a girl, if you're a young girl, what is very vintage is not your thing. You don't want very vintage clothes or buttons or anything of the sort. You want to pick your own clothing. And I understood this very well because I'm a girl too, or I was one before I became an old lady. But my mother, like yours, thought, well, let me guide my daughter so that she dresses well. And the intention is good, but there's a little scratching in this poem that you begin to feel very early. For example, very vintage is the first thing that made my ears perk up. And then after that, plastic shoebox. And then she taught me how to sew when I was 10. That is good with some girls. Some girls actually like it. They enjoy knitting and they enjoy all the needlework and all of that. But some girls would rather be engineers or doctors or something else. Who cares? But it goes on like that, not the steps. And the way she plays with the word step stool, but not the steps. And that's another Daniel. She shouldn't see paying for store-bought clothes. That gives it a little attack there. It's money that's the problem, not so much the delight of making the clothing, of creating something that's going to make my daughter even more beautiful than she is. It's another thing. The other things keep piling up in this poem, and not one of them gives away what's going to the end. But when it comes, you say, "Oh, that's what that was about." Because she talks about shoddy work. Look at those crooked seams. So she made all my clothes. My favorites were such and such, but when she stopped sewing for me, though to be honest, I was fine with that. You're writing my thoughts. You're writing my life. And this is a very, very universal poem because this is a mother-daughter poem. And those of us who adore our mothers, nevertheless, have things like this, little things that rub you, and that they don't stop rubbing ever, which is too bad. Well, you saved money, you got the what you wanted, and then she did give me the box. Well, not exactly.
This is great.
That line is great, because is it because you were afraid she would give it to you, or because you hoped she would give it to you, or because you don't know which is which? There's nothing in this poem that spells itself cleanly out. It's a push and pull, and poems should be that way. Emily Dickinson was right. Well, it sits on a high shelf. How often do you get it? It's high up there. Not exactly. I take it down occasionally and rummage, and then hold it for a minute, but you put it back. You don't know how to sew or how to mend. And of course, we all want to mend. We all have things that we would like to forgive, but they annoy. And they annoy people. They annoy because they come from people that we love. It's a very moving. I cried when I finished this one.
Thank you.
Rena, I actually did too. I was just reading through, and you've read 200 poems in a sitting, and you
Mhm.
kind of start to glaze over a little, and then one like this, really, that last line, it's really difficult to pull off a last line like that.
Very, very hard, very hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the negative is there, but the desire for the positive is also there.
Yeah.
And we all
Yeah.
feel it.
I think that's what's astonishing about this poem is like you were saying. I mean, every woman who was in the group as we were discussing these poems said, "Oh, I understand this poem. This one makes sense to me." It's such a universal poem, and but it never, it seems to stand, it seemed to me to stand in such an interesting relationship to the confessional poem. I think there's a way that this poem could have been written that would have been self self-satisfying, or even a little bit what I feel is sometimes obscene, because it's just so out there, so much stuff. And this poem, it never throws the mother under the bus in any way. It never delves into an ugly situation. It just leaves it all very delicately there so you can read your own mother-daughter relationship.
Yes. Because
And
you do have one.
we all have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with the
Well,
love and with the admiration and with the gratitude. A lot of gratitude between mothers and daughters and sons and fathers.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of relationship there too, and it does exist. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know who does it, but life does it. It's a beautiful poem. It's beautifully written. There isn't a wasted word in it. I love this poem.
Thank you so much. I'm glad it like struck a chord in people. I didn't know that when I sent it out there that anyone would recognize it. And then when I hear that, oh yeah,
It would be hard not to recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Just that tiny betrayal. We've all done that, where we've looked at our mothers and said, "No, not what you've given me.
Mm-mm.
I want something else." And that moment, you just capture it so perfectly.
The time I came home with a dress that I absolutely fell in love with in the department store. And my mother said, "You can't wear that." And you don't stop still to think why. Is it because it's not my color, or because it doesn't fit me right, or because she wants control?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you never get over that.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
one of the most painful things in life. And we hope our daughters think differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
Midge, you just handle it so delicately. It's really
Yes.
marvelous.
Yes, yes, yes.
thank you so much.
We thank you for writing it. I think that one of the things that poetry is priceless the thing that makes it priceless, is the fact that it speaks for people that you don't even know. That you have gotten inside somebody's head when you weren't even invited in. You weren't told where the door is. But somehow those of us who write poetry have a key. And I think we're very lucky.
Midge, can I ask a little? I was really curious with this poem. When you wrote it, did you write it straight through and it stayed in that order and you landed on that closing line? Or did you kind of have to draft it in a couple of different sequences? Or how did you find yourself coming up to that last line? It's just such a rare thing to have a last line that's that perfect of a blend of inevitable and surprising.
Good
And I would just love to
question.
know how
Great.
yeah, where did it come from in the process of writing?
Well, honestly, I think I had the last two lines and I kept thinking I should pick one or the other. And I went back and forth and showed it to people. And it was almost like it's perfectly split. Half the people said you should get rid of the first, of the two. And the other half said you should get rid of the second of the two. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I need them both because there was something about um I mean, in the poem you see that my mom died, and so you reach a point where you can't fix it anymore because she's around to fix it. And so you don't even know what to wish for because you can't wish to fix it because you can't fix it. So I couldn't lose that, but I couldn't lose the other either because I needed that tension between, of that deep desire to like not want something, but also desperately want to fix something. So
What you wanted was the truth.
was what?
The truth.
Mm.
We all want to tell the truth, but it
So,
has to be slant.
so in the end, I just ignored them all and I said, well, I'm just keeping both of them.
I'm
Good
glad.
choice. Good choice.
Yes, very much the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really lovely, and I can't wait to have it published and have it out there. And I think a lot of people are gonna read it and just be deeply moved.
Yeah.
So thank you for sending it to us.
You.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for honoring me by sending it to a contest with my name. I'm really very, very, very proud of this, and I feel very lucky.
Well, I think the first poem of yours I read was about you baking challah with your daughter-in-law. And I thought, well, I never baked with my mother, but I sewed with my mother. So this seems like a good way to honor Rena at the beginning of sending in a poem.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. Oh,
All right. On to the winning poem. And we have a funny situation here where the winning poet is not here to read the winning poem because she doesn't have I'm not quite clear on what she doesn't have, but she doesn't have either a computer that works with Zoom or something, but she was unable to come and read this with us, but she said that I could read it aloud and then we could have the discussion. So the winning poem is by Gail White, who has published quite a number of beautiful things. And the winning poem here is called The Left Hand of Saint Teresa. So I will give it the best reading that I can here. The Left Hand of Saint Teresa. When the saint died, her best friend and confessor cut off her hand. What are friends for? The shrine at Rhonda keeps it as a sacred treasure, covered with glass and gold. I can't assign a special magic to those long dead fingers, lacking the power or the will to bless. But with the faithful, some enchantment lingers over the bones, some touch of holiness that once informed a living heart. I know the spell I feel here will not come outside with me, will never cheer me in the dark. But for Teresa's lovers, every tree breathes miracles, and Rhonda's grassy park abounds in babies whose young mothers planned their nursery colors once they touched her hand.
now that is a very sedate ending. There's no shock there, and yet you're thinking, why? Why touching the hand will bring the child so that I can start the raising of the family? And of course, she's already mentioned every tree breathes miracles. Grassy park abounds. Nature is there. Nature has something to do with this poem. Maybe what nature wants is what this poem is talking about. The line two sends you off in the wrong direction because you know who she is. You know she writes hysterical poetry. It's always funny. and she's always fun. So this is going to be a funny poem. But no, it isn't. Because first, it's kept as a sacred treasure. I saw it. I was there. I saw her hand. I saw the hand, and I was very moved by it, although I had the same kind of yucky feeling, because this was a dead part of somebody's human being, somebody's human body. Uh, and I can understand her saying, I can't assign a special magic to those long dead fingers. I don't believe in the touching of parts that will bring any change to your life at all. I think we bring our own changes. But there it is. But with the faithful, some enchantment lingers. There is something about death that makes us think that it has a power. It has a power, and what is it? Well, the fact that grass, for example, will grow where the seed falls because nature wants it to. Nature wants us to repeat what we've done. We've lived. We want life to keep going. This is a poem about how important it is for us to be boldly sexual like nature. Now, this is not a faithful thing to say about a woman who was a nun and who was such a serious nun, such a sedate woman, such a woman so in love with her religion and with her God and with her faith that she wouldn't dream of writing something of bad taste. And yet she's writing something in which nature is saying, come on, you know what it is. That's the only way you're going to keep life alive. That's the only way life is going to continue, is if you don't throw it out of your life completely. Now, she was a wonderful poet herself, and I'm going to take the liberty of reading a couple of poems of hers because they really explain this poem. Here's a little one. This is only 8 lines. No, 9 lines. It's called Nada te turbe, which means let nothing vex you. And this is my translation. Let nothing vex you, nothing affright you. Everything passes. But God is changeless. Patience at last will accomplish all things. He who possesses God lacks for nothing, for God suffices. Now there is her faith. There is what she lives for. She really does live for her religion. She wrote wonderful books about the importance of faith, the importance of God, the idea that God lacks for nothing, for God suffices. That's her life. And then she wrote this other one, which is also my translation here. And hold that. Thank you. This one is called I've Rendered Myself. In Latin, it's Delectus meus mihi. Delight. I am delighting myself. I've rendered myself his own, and so well my gift recover that my lover's mine alone, and I wholly for my lover. When that sweet hunter with a capital H, when that sweet hunter took aim and fired and brought me low, to the arms of love I came, wounded with my soul in tow. Now, full of new life I go, and so fully I recover that my lover's mine alone, and I wholly for my lover. The arrow he loosed in air, tipped with love, hurried to find me. My soul joined its maker there, and with him so fast entwined me that no other love can bind me, for I desire no other, since my lover's mine alone, and I wholly for my lover. Now that's a woman who is in love with God. And I think what the poem is saying is that love is all the same. Wherever it is, whoever it's for, whatever it accomplishes, it is the same feeling. If you love God and you love your little boy that you're going to give birth to in another few months, that's the same love. Nature wants you to love all the love in the world. It doesn't want you to throw out this one because it's not polite, especially for a nun. But it wants you to keep that love alive because it is the same the same thing that makes you good, that makes you kind toward others, that makes you help the helpless, that makes you love your child. So it's a very daring poem. It's a poem that says, don't be afraid of sex. It's part of what we all live for. It's part of what we all should be. And I just love the repetition of those three lines. I desire no other, since my lover's mine alone, and I wholly for my lover. Now, if she were thinking purely of the religious side of love, which is very important for all of us, then we'd say, well, she's exaggerating here. But no, she is, my lover is not just the man or the woman, if you're speaking as a man, but the other. You have to love the other because that is all there is. There is a beautiful statue. I forgot now where I saw it. I think it was in Italy, but it was this saint herself kneeling like this, and she's looking up, and there's an angel up there. I forget whether it's Raphael or one of the archangels, one of the big wing guys, the big ones. And he's up there smiling at her with such sweetness that you can't imagine that he's going to do anything to hurt her. And yet he has a spear, and the point of the spear is going into her chest. It's about to kill her with love. And she is so happy that you can tell right away she understands. She was a very close friend of St. John of the Cross. And St. John of the Cross, of course, always wrote like Edward, what's his name? Edward in England. What's the name? The poet that I absolutely love.
You don't mean Herbert?
Herbert, yes. And he is one of the people who used to bring sex into religion. There's a whole group of people in England, in Spain, and also in France, and also in Italy. And these are very daring poems because there are people who say, oh, we shouldn't talk like that. But she didn't think like that. She thought like St. John of the Cross. Love is love. The hell with it. What
That
do
was
you
a beautiful reflection, Rhina.
Hmm?
That was a beautiful reflection on the poem.
Well, I translated St. John of the Cross, and I translated Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, who did the same thing. She also talks about lovers that she never had, but she's talking about God. And she's like a woman in love. One of the things that both St. John and Sor Juana do is to act like a woman. He writes that wonderful poem of his where he's escaping from the house because he's looking for her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so touching and so wildly loving that you feel what a blessing it must be to have that kind of faith.
And that's, I think, exactly what you feel in this poem too. Because yeah, that's really lovely. I liked this poem from the beginning, the first time I read it, because it felt as though the poet had seen a very difficult little thing and had decided to go right at it instead of taking any shortcut or cutting out anything, reducing reality to fit something. No, she just said, the reality is there is this relic. It doesn't seem to have power to me. The world is full of life. I don't know where it's coming from. For other people, this relic may have power. I don't know. And she she creates that voice of where she is where the speaker of the poem is directly confronting reality and remaining agnostic about it. She doesn't claim to understand what's going on.
She's not going to have any lovers. but she already has one.
Yeah, it's
It's
really a magnificent
yeah,
voice. It's one of those poems that makes me think, wow, I hope someday I will be the kind of person who could write this poem, who
yeah,
could be in this relationship with a difficult reality and
yeah,
could find this poem in it. There's a moral core to the poem that's really admirable to me.
yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right, because you recognize it as an absolute necessity. If it didn't exist, there would have been one generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I found that in St. John and in Sor Juana and in Herbert and in so many people of the 17th century, 16th and 17th centuries. Those 2 centuries were given over to the reality of things that we sometimes don't talk.
Well, I'm a Rabelais girl. I'm all about these things that people
Yes,
don't
that's
talk
right.
about.
That's right. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Midge or Daniel, do you have any reflections on Gail's poem? I know you just heard it, but was there anything in it that struck you that you wanted to share?
I just recently came back from a vacation to Prague, and I saw the cathedral they have there in the castle complex up on the hill. And it is the greatest density of these medieval, what do they call them? The monstrances, the reliquaries that I've ever seen, every one of which it's incredibly reverent and incredibly ghoulish. It is a cemetery's worth of piecemeal saints.
Mm.
And one of the things they told us was that uh, people would come there on pilgrimages from the small rural churchyards and the chapels that didn't have their own reliquaries, and
Hmm.
sometimes they would be allowed to make one. They would have a strip of cloth or an object that they would hold against the relic, and then it would become a relic, a second order relic.
Oh my.
Um, and just the transitive property I thought was so delightful because if you can make more relic with a relic, then you can just take that strip of cloth and then start making some more relics from that. And then you could just spread it like fire spreading fire until the whole world is
The
whole.
whole world becomes a
Right.
relic. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Well, somebody wrote, and I forget where I read this, that the nails that supposedly nailed Christ to the cross,
About 500 of them, right?
there are so many that they filled more than barrels. There are barrels full of these nails because we want them, because we want something left from the past, because the past had something in it that was holy and powerful.
Gadzooks.
Yeah,
Mm.
Gadzooks is right.
The what I mean, I love I'll really I'm really looking forward to reading it. But what I could get from that last line and from something that you said, Jane, what really struck me is this idea when because I've struggled and written about this too, is when you don't believe something, you don't internalize it, but you look at other people believing it and watching that faith in someone else, like what that does to you, and it kind of you might not necessarily believe the particular thing that they're doing, but the the peace it gives them or the belief that they have is something so, breathtaking, and watching that feeling of watching someone else's faith.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what I heard in that last line of that
yes,
poem.
it is. And if you have an open mind and if you believe in the natural world, I mean the world that we live in, because this is our only planet. If you love it and you understand some of it, I took botany and I adored it. Fell in love with all the plants, all the plants. My house is full of plants. Um, if you can take that into your love along with people that you love, then it becomes very important. You can't let life go. It has to be welcomed, and childbirth and all.
Well, I wish Gail could be here to hear our accolades, but we will certainly pass along to her how much the poem meant to us and touched all of us. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. This has been a real delight. I want to especially thank Rhina for lending your name to our poetry contest. It's just a huge honor.
Oh,
So
my,
thank
I'm
you
the one
very
who feels honored.
much. Mutual honor. That's the way it should be.
Yes, yes.
And congratulations to Gail, Midge, and Daniel for your really magnificent poems. And honestly, to all the other, there was a short list of poems and really some excellent pieces this year. So I'm really looking forward to reading all the poems next year. And on that note, next year's competition is actually open. So I wanted to just um, read briefly what the description of the contest is and direct people, if you enjoyed this event, if you write poetry, start brushing something up and send it over to us for next year. So the Rhina Espaillat Poetry Award honors the achievement of the great Dominican American poet, translator, and public school teacher, Rhina Polonia Espaillat. The award will be awarded for an original poem of not more than 50 lines that reflects Rhina's lyricism, attention to form, empathy, and ability to find grace in everyday events of life without having to be explicitly religious. Or, as we saw in that last poem, grappling with religious themes and bringing some doubt and some questioning to those experiences. That's certainly within the scope of the award. So please hop onto the website and check that out. If you are a poet, we would love to get your work. For now, just a round of applause for everyone.
I want to thank you because you made this possible.
Oh, of course, you're welcome.
Both of you made this possible. And I love this young man next to you who has got a nice white mustache with milk. And I have a feeling that that would make a great poem.
Oh, I think it probably would. Yes, yes. He's a noble young man. Thank you, everyone. This has been a delight.
Good night, everybody,
Good night.
for all of you. Oh, what fun.
That was fun. Do we hop off now? I don't know what we do now. I
A
don't-
glass of wine sounds like
Tell
that.
each other about your lives.
Oh, my son says now we tell each other about our lives.
No, you do that with a poem.
Yes, yes.
I'm a grad student. I don't have a life.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry.
It'll be there.
Yep.